Creativity is humanity's oldest and most mysterious gift. Long before we built cities, machines, or algorithms, we imagined, we turned stories into symbols, thoughts into songs, and feelings into art. It's what separated survival from existence. We didn't just adapt to the world, we dreamed of ways to reshape it. But now, as artificial intelligence begins to compose music, paint portraits, and write poetry, one question echoes louder than ever. Can AI truly replace human creativity? To answer that, we must first understand what creativity really is. It isn't just about producing something new, it's about combining the known and the unknown into something meaningful. When a poet writes, when an inventor designs, or when a child imagines a world made of clouds, that act of creation comes from layers of emotion, experience, and consciousness intertwined. Creativity isn't a mechanical process. It's born from chaos, curiosity, and even pain. It emerges when logic and emotion collide, something machines can mimic but not feel. The human brain is wired for creative leaps. Inside the folds of the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for complex thought, neurons fire in unpredictable patterns, connecting distant ideas like sparks in the dark. This process, known as divergent thinking, is what allows humans to imagine beyond what exists. When Albert Einstein said that imagination was more important than knowledge, he wasn't being poetic, he was describing a neurological truth. Creativity is not about memory or speed, it's about insight. It thrives in uncertainty, in mistakes, in the beauty of not knowing what comes next. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, operates within data. It doesn't invent from void, it reconfigures patterns from what it's seen before. An AI model trained on millions of paintings can generate art that resembles Rembrandt or Picasso, but it doesn't know why the art moves us. It can predict color harmony and composition, but it cannot grasp heartbreak, nostalgia, or awe. It knows the texture of emotion, not the emotion itself. It creates without context, expression without consciousness. Human creativity, at its core, is deeply emotional. It's tied to the unpredictable rhythm of our inner world, joy, sorrow, longing, fear, and hope. Every song ever written, every story ever told, carries fragments of the human condition. When Van Gogh painted Starry Night, he wasn't optimizing a color palette. He was expressing isolation and wonder through brushstrokes. When Beethoven composed his symphonies while losing his hearing, he wasn't following data. He was defying it. Creativity is rebellion, a refusal to be contained by logic alone. AI lacks that defiance. It cannot suffer, nor can it dream. It doesn't wrestle with meaning or mortality. And yet, it creates things that astonish us. AI-generated art can make us feel something real, even though the artist feels nothing at all. That's the paradox. The machine mirrors us so well that we begin to question whether our uniqueness is slipping away, whether creativity is truly about feeling, or simply about the ability to generate novelty that touches others. But even when AI imitates, it imitates us. Its creativity is derivative, a reflection of human output. Every digital brushstroke, melody, or sentence it produces originates from a human example buried somewhere in its training data. The machine is not inventing culture, it's echoing it. It's an amplifier, not a source. What it creates tells us less about what machines can do, and more about what humans have already done. And yet, dismissing AI as purely mechanical would be naive. It doesn't need consciousness to change how we think about creativity. Just as the camera once redefined painting, AI is redefining the boundaries of art and thought. It challenges us to confront the essence of our creative identity. What part of creation belongs to skill and what part belongs to soul? Maybe that's where the real magic lies. AI may generate, but only humans interpret. The value of creativity has never been in the output alone, but in the story behind it, the why. A machine can mimic the what, but not the why. It can produce art, but not purpose. So, before we ask whether AI can replace human creativity, perhaps we should ask a deeper question. Why do we create at all? The answer lies not in algorithms or logic, but in the flame of human imagination, fragile, unpredictable, and endlessly alive. Because while AI may simulate sparks, only humans know what it means to burn. To understand whether artificial intelligence can replace human creativity, we must look beneath the surface, inside the circuitry where thinking happens without consciousness. While a human's creative spark emerges from emotion, experience, and intuition, AI's version of creativity is something entirely different. It's not born, it's built. At its core, AI doesn't dream, imagine, or wonder. It processes. Every act of so-called AI creativity, whether it's generating a painting, writing a melody, or crafting a poem, is the result of vast data absorption and pattern recognition. AI doesn't wake up one day inspired to create. It learns by studying millions of examples made by humans, our words, our sounds, our art, our mistakes. It identifies patterns, structures, and relationships that define what we call creative expression. Then, using mathematical probability, it recombines those elements into something that feels new, even though it's built entirely from the old. This process is powered by something called neural networks, digital architectures inspired loosely by the human brain. But where our neurons connect through organic experience, AI's connections are formed through training. When you feed a model thousands of images of cats, for instance, it doesn't understand what a cat is. It learns to predict what pixel patterns most likely correspond to something humans have labeled as cat. Similarly, when you feed an AI millions of poems or paintings, it learns the statistical essence of creativity, rhythm, tone, structure, contrast, without ever grasping meaning. When AI creates, it doesn't have a goal, emotion, or message. It operates on a loop of input, processing, and output. It generates multiple versions, scores them by likelihood, and refines them based on feedback. Over time, through billions of microadjustments, it becomes astonishingly good at imitation. Sometimes so good that it fools us into believing something human made it. This is not imagination though, it's inference. A machine doesn't ask, what if? It only answers, what next? This distinction might sound philosophical, but it's crucial. Human creativity thrives on uncertainty, the leap from logic to chaos, the willingness to risk failure. AI cannot fail in the emotional sense because it never cares. It cannot hesitate, doubt, or feel pride. Its mistakes are not born of exploration but of calculation. Humans stumble into brilliance, AI calculates its way there. Both paths may lead to art, but only one carries intent. Yet, AI's learning process reveals something profound about our own creativity. By observing how machines learn to mimic, we glimpse how much of human creation is pattern-driven too. We rely on memory, imitation, and repetition more than we like to admit. When a musician composes, they unconsciously recall scales they've heard before. When a painter works, they're guided by visual conventions learned through exposure. In this way, both humans and AI draw from the past, but humans do so with feeling and story while AI does so with statistics. Still, the gap between imitation and innovation is narrowing. Modern AI models don't just replicate styles, they blend them in unpredictable ways. A system can combine Renaissance painting techniques with surrealist composition or generate music that merges jazz with electronic tones, something no single artist might have conceived. It doesn't understand why the fusion works, but sometimes it accidentally achieves originality. This is where things get blurry. Can something be creative if it's born without intention? Or is creativity defined solely by the novelty and impact of the result? Some researchers argue that creativity doesn't require emotion, only the ability to produce something novel and valuable. By that logic, AI can indeed be creative. But others insist that true creativity demands awareness, the understanding of what one is creating and why. A poem written without a poet's consciousness, they say, is not art, it's noise that resembles art. And yet, AI continues to challenge that boundary. It doesn't need emotion to evoke emotion in us. Its words can move us, its melodies can haunt us, its images can inspire us, not because it feels but because we do. AI becomes a mirror, reflecting our own meaning back to us through machine-made forms. It amplifies our perception of what creativity can be, even as it strips away the illusion that it's uniquely human. The machine's mind doesn't dream, but it learns. It doesn't imagine, but it evolves. Every iteration, every dataset, every new algorithm pushes the boundary of what creation means. The question isn't whether AI can think like us, it's whether we can still recognize ourselves in what it creates. Because maybe creativity isn't about the creator at all. Maybe it's about the connection, the spark that leaps between creation and emotion, between maker and witness. AI can't feel that spark, but it can ignite it in us. And that changes everything. At first glance, it's easy to be amazed by what artificial intelligence can create. It paints portraits that look alive, writes poetry that stirs emotions, and composes symphonies that could move a listener to tears. Yet beneath this dazzling surface lies an uncomfortable truth. AI doesn't feel a single thing it creates. It doesn't know what beauty is, what heartbreak feels like, or why a melody can make someone cry. The emotional power we perceive in AI's creations doesn't come from the machine. It comes from us. Emotion is the essence of creativity. It's not simply an accessory to art, it's the engine that drives it. When humans create, we don't just manipulate patterns or data, we transform inner experience into external form. Every brushstroke, lyric, and note carries pieces of our inner lives: joy, grief, curiosity, love, confusion. When an artist paints a sunset, they're not recording photons of light. They're translating the way that moment feels. A machine can reproduce the image but not the meaning behind it. To understand why this emotional gap exists, we have to explore how emotion functions in the human brain. Feelings are not abstract. They're biological signals, deeply connected to survival. When we experience awe, fear, or sadness, our limbic system, particularly the amygdala and insula, communicates with the prefrontal cortex, coloring thought with value. Emotion gives context to perception. It tells us what matters and why. This emotional tagging is what allows creativity to become personal. We don't just imagine, we care. AI, by contrast, has no inner world. It has no limbic system, no hormones, no lived experience. It can simulate expressions of emotion because it's been trained on millions of emotional outputs. Love poems, tragic films, melancholic music, but it doesn't understand the feelings those works emerged from. It's like a mirror that reflects light perfectly but has no reflection of its own. When it writes a love poem, it doesn't ache. When it paints despair, it doesn't mourn. It's simply mapping correlations between words, colors, or notes that statistically co-occur with love or sadness in its training data. The brilliance of human creativity lies not in precision, but in imperfection. Our greatest works often come from struggle, contradiction, and vulnerability. A human artist may spend hours agonizing over a sentence or a color because it doesn't feel right. That feeling, that intuitive sense of meaning, is something a machine cannot replicate. AI can measure composition, symmetry, and rhythm, but it cannot feel discomfort, intuition, or longing. And without that inner tension, art loses its soul. This is why AI's creations, though impressive, sometimes feel eerily hollow. There's something missing, a pulse. It's like listening to a perfect cover of a song you love, performed flawlessly by a machine. The notes are all there, but the energy, the small imperfections that make it human, are gone. That imperfection is where connection lives. It's the trembling in a voice, the hesitation in a line, the small cracks in expression that remind us we're alive. Yet, paradoxically, AI can still make us feel. Not because it feels, but because we do. When an AI-generated image moves you, it's your brain projecting human meaning onto the pattern. The art acts as a trigger, awakening emotions already within you. In that sense, AI becomes a mirror of human consciousness. Not a replacement, but a reflection. It can reveal what touches us, what fascinates us, and even what scares us. But it cannot join us in those feelings. The emotional gap between humans and machines also exposes something uncomfortable about ourselves: our desire to be understood without having to explain. We long for technology that empathizes, that feels with us. This is why we speak to AI assistants as though they were alive, why we name robots, and why we thank them. We don't want machines to be conscious. We want them to make us feel less alone. But real empathy, the foundation of emotional creativity, can only come from shared experience. When a person writes a song about heartbreak, they're reaching across the void, saying, "I felt this too." That shared vulnerability creates connection. AI can mimic that message, but it can't mean it. It can generate empathy as a performance, but not as a reality. And this is where the line remains drawn. AI's art may dazzle us, but it can never comfort us. Not truly. It can mimic emotion, but it can't heal emotion. It can reproduce the sound of laughter, but it can't laugh with us. It can draw the shape of tears, but it can't cry beside us. So, can AI create beauty? Absolutely. But can it feel beauty? Never. Because beauty in the end is not in the creation, it's in the connection. And until machines can ache, hope, and dream, they will always stand outside the door of true creativity, able to describe what it looks like, but never knowing what it feels like to step inside. We stand today at an extraordinary crossroads, a place where art, science, and technology have merged into something humanity has never seen before. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a tool, it's becoming a partner in the act of creation. Musicians compose with AI-generated melodies. Filmmakers use AI to design worlds that would take human teams months to build. Writers experiment with machine-assisted storytelling. It seems like the beginning of a beautiful collaboration between human imagination and machine intelligence. But beneath that hopeful vision lies a question that grows louder every day: are we collaborating, or competing, with the very thing we built? When humans first began using AI creatively, it was thrilling. A digital assistant that could brainstorm endless ideas, refine designs, or write in dozens of styles felt liberating. It removed the mechanical weight of creative work, the drafting, the repetition, the endless revisions, and allowed people to focus on vision. Many artists saw AI as a creative amplifier, a way to express themselves more freely. But as the technology evolved, something changed. AI wasn't just assisting anymore. It started producing final works, polished, stunning, and sometimes indistinguishable from human creations. That's when the tension began. The story of creation has always been about identity. Artists define themselves by their unique voice, their interpretation of reality. But now, a non-conscious algorithm can generate original works in seconds. What happens to the meaning of creativity when anyone, or anything, can make something that looks like art? When AI can write a novel in Hemingway style, compose music like Hans Zimmer, or paint like Van Gogh, does the value of human originality begin to fade? Some say this is a new renaissance, not a threat but a revolution. Just as the invention of the camera transformed art in the 19th century, AI could free creators from technical limitations. The painter no longer has to worry about mixing pigments. The writer doesn't face the terror of a blank page. Instead, humans can focus on concept, message, and meaning. AI becomes the brush, the pen, the instrument, the ultimate extension of creative thought. But others fear that this collaboration masks a silent competition. If AI can design logos, write ads, compose jingles, and even produce screenplays, what happens to the millions of human creatives who built their livelihoods on these skills? Already, industries are experimenting with replacing human work with AI output. Faster, cheaper, and good enough. The question isn't just philosophical anymore, it's deeply economic. Creativity used to be one of the last bastions of human exclusivity. Now even that is at risk of automation. Yet there's something profound happening beneath the surface. A reshaping of what it means to create. Perhaps true collaboration between humans and AI doesn't look like competition at all, but a new kind of symbiosis. Humans bring emotion, context, and purpose, things no algorithm can replicate. AI brings speed, precision, and infinite memory. Together, they can produce outcomes that neither could achieve alone. Imagine a filmmaker using AI to visualize dreams that were once impossible to shoot. Imagine scientists generating new forms of music based on mathematical structures beyond human imagination. The line between artist and engineer begins to blur, forming a hybrid intelligence, artificially inspired, humanly directed. But for collaboration to work, control matters. The moment humans stop leading, when we allow AI to decide what's beautiful, valuable, or popular, we risk losing something essential. Creativity becomes a feedback loop of trends generated by machines trained on the past. The same algorithms that promise innovation could actually narrow imagination, feeding us endless variations of what already exists. Instead of exploring the unknown, AI could trap us in a perfect circle of recycled aesthetics, art without evolution. So, how do we keep the collaboration alive without surrendering our identity? The answer lies in intent. When humans use AI consciously, as a mirror to explore our thoughts, a partner to extend our reach, it becomes a bridge between the known and the possible. But when we use it passively, letting it choose for us, it becomes a cage that quietly defines what we dream. The real creative frontier isn't in replacing human thought with machine logic. It's in merging them, while remembering that emotion, intuition, and moral vision must remain at the helm. The future of creativity won't belong to humans or AI alone. It will belong to those who learn how to speak both languages, the language of feeling and the language of data. Because in the end, collaboration or competition isn't decided by the machine. It's decided by us. The tools we build will reflect the hands that guide them. And if we lead with curiosity, empathy, and imagination, AI will not erase our creativity, it will help us discover deeper versions of it. But if we surrender that leadership, if we let efficiency replace meaning, then we'll wake up one day surrounded by flawless art that moves no one, a world full of creation but devoid of creators. As AI grows more capable of creating stories, images, music, even inventions, one of the most pressing questions of our time emerges. Who owns the imagination of a machine? When an algorithm generates a painting that sells for millions, or a song that tops the charts, whose name belongs on it? The engineer who built the model? The artist who prompted it? The company that trained it? Or perhaps no one at all, because how can something without consciousness have authorship? This question isn't just theoretical, it's already happening. In 2018, a portrait called Edmond de Bellamy, created entirely by an AI, was auctioned at Christie's for over $400,000. The image was haunting, a blurry, dreamlike depiction of a man who never existed. The algorithm that created it had been trained on thousands of classical portraits. But when the sale made headlines, a legal and ethical storm followed. Who was the artist? The AI? The coders? Or the data, the countless real artists whose works had trained the model? That's the heart of the dilemma. AI doesn't create in isolation, it learns by consuming our creations. Every dataset it studies, every painting, photograph, or paragraph, was made by a human. And yet, when it generates something new, it does so without acknowledging those origins. It builds on centuries of human creativity without understanding, without consent, and without credit. It's as if every artist who ever lived is whispering in the background of AI's output, unheard and uncredited. This raises uncomfortable questions about intellectual property. When an AI mimics a living artist's style, is that admiration or theft? If a company trains a model on copyrighted books and then sells stories in that style, is that innovation or exploitation? The law is struggling to keep up. In most countries, copyright still requires human authorship, a soul behind the work. But as AI-generated art floods the internet, the boundaries blur. Courts are now facing cases where no one can definitively say who the creator really is. Beyond ownership, there's an even deeper ethical tension: responsibility. When an AI produces harmful or biased content, who's to blame? The algorithm itself? It has no will. The engineers? They built it but didn't write its outputs. The users? They just prompted it. The truth is, responsibility becomes diffused in the vast digital ecosystem where human intention and machine execution intermingle. The same system that can produce breathtaking art can also generate misinformation, deepfakes, or manipulative media, and yet no single entity stands accountable. This ethical vacuum forces us to confront something uncomfortable about our relationship with technology. We've built a system that can imitate creativity but lacks morality. It doesn't know right from wrong, beauty from deception, originality from imitation. It only knows how to optimize. And when optimization becomes our creative compass, art itself begins to lose its moral anchor. Some thinkers argue that the real danger isn't that AI will steal our creativity, but that it will cheapen it. When a poem, a song, or a design can be generated in seconds, will we still value the years of human struggle behind art? Or will we trade authenticity for convenience, meaning for efficiency? AI may not destroy art, but it might erode the culture that values effort and emotional truth. Still, there's hope, if we choose it. We can build ethical frameworks that ensure AI serves humanity's creative spirit rather than exploiting it. That might mean new kinds of digital rights, where artists can control whether their work is used in training data. It might mean transparency standards so audiences know when they're engaging with machine-made content. It might even mean redefining ownership itself, from a matter of possession to one of stewardship. Because maybe the question isn't who owns AI's imagination, but how do we protect our own? The machine can only reflect the values we embed in it. If we teach it respect, it can amplify human artistry. If we teach it greed, it will automate exploitation. The ethics of AI creativity are not written in code, they're written in us. The future of art, imagination, and even truth itself depends on whether we can balance progress with responsibility. We stand at a turning point where innovation can either deepen our humanity or dilute it. The choice is ours, not the machine's. Because at the end of the day, AI doesn't have imagination. It has replication. The only true imagination that exists, the one that dreams, feels, and questions, still belongs to us. But if we don't guard it carefully, even that may slowly be programmed away. In a world where artificial intelligence can compose symphonies, paint portraits, and even write heartfelt stories, one question continues to echo through every creative mind. What makes us different? If a machine can replicate art that moves us, where does the human edge truly lie? The answer, as it turns out, isn't in perfection, it's in chaos. It's in the unpredictable, messy, emotional spark that no algorithm can ever fully grasp. At the core of every great human creation, every song that made someone cry, every painting that changed the way we see the world, there's an emotional fingerprint. It's born not out of logic or data, but out of experience. Love, fear, grief, curiosity, wonder, these aren't just feelings. They're chemical storms in the brain that shape the way we perceive and interpret the world. They drive us to create not because we can, but because we must. A machine doesn't know heartbreak. It can analyze every love song ever written, but it will never understand what it feels like to lose someone, or to long for something unattainable. It can simulate a poem about loneliness, but it doesn't ache. That absence of emotion is its greatest limitation. Creativity without feeling is imitation, a reflection of art but never its origin. Humans are not consistent creators. We are flawed, distracted, and often irrational. And paradoxically, that's what makes our creations so alive. When a painter's brush trembles or a writer's sentence breaks rhythm, those imperfections carry the weight of their humanity. They remind us that art isn't about precision, it's about connection. Machines can calculate patterns, but they cannot replicate meaning. Science helps explain why. Neuroscientists have discovered that creativity in the human brain thrives in uncertainty. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logical thinking, momentarily quiets during bursts of inspiration, allowing the subconscious to form unexpected connections. It's a process defined by chaos, by randomness, dreams, and emotional memory. AI, on the other hand, does the opposite. It operates through optimization, eliminating uncertainty, seeking the best possible outcome. But true creativity isn't about finding the best, it's about exploring the unknown. Our edge lies in that paradox. The human mind creates from imperfection, while AI creates from pattern. The human mind seeks meaning, while AI seeks accuracy. The human heart tells stories not just to describe the world, but to understand it. Machines may be able to generate endless variations of stories, but they cannot feel why stories matter. And that emotional chaos, that unpredictable spark, gives birth to art that transcends function. Think of Beethoven composing while losing his hearing, Van Gogh painting through madness, or Maya Angelou writing after surviving trauma. Their creations weren't logical outcomes. They were emotional rebellions against logic. A machine could mimic their styles, but it could never replicate the reason behind them. It could produce a song that sounds like Beethoven, but it would never know the silence that inspired it. Ironically, it's our emotional volatility, the very thing that makes us inconsistent, that fuels our creativity. Our moods shift, our memories distort, our perceptions evolve. Every experience changes the way we express ourselves. AI, however, learns from static data. It doesn't grow in the human sense. It updates. It can improve technically but not emotionally. It can't reinterpret the world through the lens of loss, hope, or wonder. It doesn't have a story, and art without story is just noise. Still, AI's rise has revealed something beautiful about us, that we are not defined by how much we can produce, but by why we create in the first place. The machine can output billions of images, melodies, and words, but it will never look at its own creation and feel proud. It will never feel the joy of resonance, the satisfaction of expression, or the vulnerability of being seen. These experiences, invisible, immeasurable, deeply human, are the true essence of creativity. Maybe that's the paradox of progress. The closer AI gets to imitating human art, the more clearly it highlights what makes us human. The more perfect its outputs become, the more we value imperfection. The shaky brushstroke, the trembling voice, the half-formed idea that grows into something extraordinary. In the end, our edge isn't in competing with AI, it's in remembering what it can never be. It can think faster, store more, and process infinitely, but it will never feel. It will never lie awake at night wondering why the stars exist or why love hurts. It will never create for meaning, only for command. And that's why no matter how advanced AI becomes, the true art, the kind that stirs souls and shapes history, will always belong to those who dare to feel, to dream, and to embrace the chaos of being human. So, after all the debates, the fears, and the fascination, where do we go from here? Will the future of creativity be ruled by artificial intelligence, or will humans and machines learn to coexist in harmony? The answer isn't simple, but it is hopeful. Because the story of AI and human creativity doesn't have to be one of replacement, it can be one of evolution. When we look at the long history of invention, every great leap forward has sparked fear. The printing press was once seen as the end of storytelling. Cameras were called the death of painting. Synthesizers were accused of ruining music. And yet, each time humanity adapted. Each time technology didn't destroy art, it expanded it. What changed wasn't our creativity, but how we expressed it. AI might just be the next chapter in that story, a new tool, a new medium, a new collaborator. But for that harmony to exist, we must redefine the roles. The machine should not be the creator, it should be the co-creator. A partner that assists, enhances, and inspires, but never replaces the emotional soul that fuels art. Think of AI not as an artist, but as an amplifier of imagination. It can help us visualize ideas that exist only in dreams, translate abstract thoughts into color and sound, and break creative boundaries limited by our hands or time. When used consciously, AI doesn't suppress creativity, it expands its possibilities. Imagine a future where a writer collaborates with an AI that helps explore different emotional tones or story structures, but the heart of the narrative still comes from the writer's experience. A composer might use AI to generate harmonies they'd never think of, but the melody still carries their signature emotion. A painter might train an algorithm on their own artwork, letting it suggest new patterns they can refine. In such a future, AI doesn't erase individuality, it magnifies it. The harmony lies in balance, in ensuring that technology remains a bridge, not a replacement. The danger isn't AI itself, it's our tendency to surrender to convenience. When we stop thinking critically, when we let the algorithm decide what's beautiful, popular, or meaningful, we lose our agency. Art becomes predictable, shaped by data rather than vision. But if we use AI as an instrument rather than an authority, it can push us toward new dimensions of creativity. There's also an ethical side to this future, one rooted in transparency and respect. We must build systems that honor the human creators whose work trains AI models. Every dataset represents thousands of unseen artists whose expressions fuel machine learning. Without acknowledgement, their creativity becomes invisible labor. The future of harmony must include fairness, where human inspiration is not consumed without credit, and AI is used responsibly, not exploitatively. Philosophically, AI challenges us to rethink what creativity truly means. If art is defined by novelty and emotion, then machines can only ever achieve half of that equation. But if art is defined by connection, by the moment it makes someone feel something, then perhaps AI can play a role in that process, even if it doesn't understand it. Maybe creativity is no longer about who or what creates it, but about the experience it evokes in us. Still, there's something irreplaceable about human creation, the story behind the art. We create because we seek meaning, because we suffer, hope, wonder, and change. AI doesn't live, so it doesn't need to express. It doesn't grow from failure or triumph. It doesn't dream. That's why even the most advanced AI will always depend on us, not for data but for direction. The harmony of the future won't be about humans versus machines, it will be about humans with machines. We'll compose symphonies that combine emotion with algorithmic complexity. We'll design worlds where imagination and computation coexist. And through it all, we'll discover that AI doesn't diminish our creativity, it illuminates it. It reminds us that creativity isn't defined by how fast or how perfectly something is made, but by the humanity that lives within it. The question, can AI replace human creativity, might eventually fade. Because the more we explore this partnership, the clearer it becomes. AI doesn't replace us, it reflects us. It shows us what we value, what we fear, and what we're capable of imagining. The danger isn't in the technology, but in forgetting what makes us human. In the end, the machines will learn from us, but what they become will depend on what we choose to teach them. If we guide AI with empathy, purpose, and imagination, we'll create not a rival, but a mirror, one that helps us see the vast, boundless potential of the human mind. Because the future of creativity isn't artificial. It's beautifully, imperfectly human, amplified by the intelligence we dared to create.